it is a different book, but that's your ecstatic accuracy. It just made me think about why I did it, I suppose. I'm a different kind of bird watcher. I also hit a hardcore period at about the same age, but I just pored over the books, and then I would go out and stare at more or less the same sets of birds because we lived high on a mountain, and it was about beauty. Because bird books, the ones I liked anyway, were illustrated rather than photographs, and so it was also love of painting, and it was definitely an aesthetic thing, partly. I've heard it said that the human female naked is one of the most beautiful sights on earth. The male nuthatch. And there was that aspect, but then it became... Tim has a wonderful chapter about redstarts, and the bird book said they will turn up in May in the wood, in the oak wood at the bottom, and you go down and there would be one, and it seemed this extraordinary, I don't know, I suppose it was like discovering in a very clumsy way naturalism for oneself, and also that relationship with what had gone before. And Tim's book it seems to be in a real, it's in the Baker tradition, actually. And when I punted this idea of following swallows as a publisher, because I was, by now, had divested myself of other careers and was a professional writer, they said great, and they imagined it would be like the sort of J.A. Baker book, or the sort of book that Tim would have written, which was beautiful and thorough and true and a light. And what actually happened was I went to Cape Town, and my preparations were basically injections and prayer and some visas, and I followed them back, more or less. They don't know much about the return route of the swallow. We know the southbound route, it starts off in September, October, goes down one side of France, more or less, if you're a Welsh swallow, in inverted commas, sort of across the Pyrenees, turn right at Perpignan, down towards the Ebro Delta, across the sea, straight to Gibraltar, across the Western Sahara, down across the Gulf of Guinea, possibly cutting the corner, that's the sort of elephant's ear, and then all the way down to the Cape. And from the west of Ireland to the Urals, there are 1 billion swallows doing this every autumn. And I got the Swallow Person's Bible, which is a book by Angela Turner called The Barn Swallow, and she was very good on this southbound route, and we know it because of ring recoveries. They can't yet carry satellite trackers, they're too small, the batteries are too big. And then the northbound route, which I wanted to follow, she just said, we think it's a bit further to the east, and there are lots of recoveries in Algeria. So I drew a line, basically, between Cape Town and Algeria, a bit further to the east, about one country in, and set off. And for me, there was a trick to it, which was, yes, it was about what the swallow could teach me, but it was also about people. I mean, and in that sense, in the genre thing, it's a travel book. It was where it would take me. And everywhere I went, I asked people, have you seen any swallows? Do you know what they are? Do you care about them? And often the answer was 3 no's, but not always. And for us, I mean, people love them because they live near us. We can watch their whole life cycle, well, half their life cycle, their breeding cycle, without binoculars, and it appears that they return to us. In fact, if breeding is successful in the nest site, they may well return to us. But if one or the other partner dies, or they fail to raise chicks, or something happens, they may go somewhere else. So they may not be, we don't know. But we're fond of them. I mean, the barn swallow. Gilbert White writes about the 18th century naturalist, Vicar of Selborne, swallows following his horse as he rode out, swooping up the flies. I mean, we're actively useful to these birds, and so this sort of familiarity, rather than breeding contempt, as it can do among people, breeds respect and affection, and they appear to, we're useful. So the idea was, where will this take me? And there is a huge body of kind of cultural myth around swallows in Northern Europe. I mean, in Sweden they're Svala, which means to console, and they must be a consolation by the time they turn up there with the spring. In South Africa, the Ngoni call them Intakazonzi, bird of the home, and they are thought to bring a message from the ancestors, which says that life in the next world is better and richer, and none who believe in the ancestors and honour the swallows need despair. And there's that sort of consolation idea. And I came across, in Zambia, because they're seen as, they're passage migrants, a lot of the time. They're Nyankalema, according to the Chewa tribe, the bird that never gets tired, which is, somebody said to me, "You are Nyankalema." So, not quite. And it was a wonderful adventure, and spiritually incredibly enriching and thrilling. It wasn't great naturalism by any means, but it gave me convictions, well, suspicions that hardened into convictions, really. And it started in a reed bed in Bloemfontein in South Africa in the Free State, where I was shown by the local swallow master 2 million, pretty well, swallows in an area the size of a couple of football pitches. And they were going down tonight for the night into the reeds. But before they went down, they were all flying around. And you've seen starlings flocking and waders and maybe even flamingos. And Tim writes brilliantly about that mind, the way it appears to be one thing. And then you say, but actually, how do we know there's only one God? There could be 8 million. But swallows don't fly like that. 2 million swallows fly in every single direction at once. So it's like watching sort of 2 million Shane Williamses all sidestepping in 3 dimensions.